Welcome back to PR After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, bringing you your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips that will help you and your business. Stick around, we'll get started right after these messages. Hello, listeners. It's me, Alex, from PR After Hours. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. And I wanted to talk to you just for a moment about the way I get this show right into your earbuds every week. It's because I use Anchor FM. Now, I've told you previously that I've been podcasting since 2006, back when we used stone knives and bear skins and a couple of Dixie cups and string. Anchor FM has really streamlined this and made it simpler for people who don't know the first thing about setting up a podcast or don't have, time to learn all the pro tools and stuff, because it's all right here. First thing it's important to know is it's free. There are certain tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. That's huge. Distribution is a big pain in the butt, to be honest with you, so it's really great Anchor FM can do that for you, and you're not paying hosting fees. That adds up every month. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place, so download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started, and be sure to join me in the virtual cocktail lounge on PR After Hours. So what if I told you I had a bridge I could sell you, but you're like, well, Alex, I trust you. I'd like to buy a bridge from you. Well, but first, Alex, I really want to know what it's really worth. Oh, well, then I'm in trouble, because you're probably going to call Bharat Kanodia, who is going to tell you straight up what it's actually is worth. He is the guy when it comes to valuations. He's valued over 2,000 businesses, real estate, industrial, governmental, infrastructure, public and private companies. Some unique assets appraised by him include the Golden Gate Bridge. So there you go. I'm already screwed, aren't I? I'm not going to be able to sell you that bridge, because he's going to tell you, first of all, no, don't trust that guy. No, but anyway, I'm really excited about it. He's got a great YouTube channel called What's It Worth? And we're going to find out what it's all worth as we welcome Bharat Kanodia. Sir, welcome to the Virtual Lounge.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Great to see you.
So, just real quickly, though, before we get into the actual channel and all this stuff, what got you into this, the valuing thing? This is not something just everybody does.
Oh, Alex, growing up in India, being a child, I would look at the stars and I would dream about coming to America and becoming an appraiser. No.
I had a full mouthful of water. He could see me, because we do this. I don't know if did you see that? I was like,
yes.
Jeez.
No, it's just something you stumble into, and that's the network I built, and I was half good at it, so I stayed there. I've been in valuations 20 years. I've appraised all kinds of businesses, tangible assets, oddball assets, intangibles, you name it.
Now you've signed off on more than 4,500 valuations with 2.6 trillion. That's with the T, ladies and gentlemen, not your Carl Sagan billions. It's a trillion with the T in assets globally. Now you're out in San Francisco, correct?
Yes, I am.
So is that why you valued the bridge? Is that how that occurred?
Let's just say the valuing the bridge was one of the factors why I moved out here.
Oh, excellent. Wow, this is fascinating.
It motivated me to move out here because it's such a beautiful bridge.
It is. It's a gorgeous city. I've only been once, and I had a magnificent time. Great restaurants as well.
Yeah.
So tell me, how is this, our audience is there, it's beyond just PR and marketing folks. We've got a lot of business owners here, and I'm not saying that these folks who are listening necessarily own Fortune 500 companies, but they do represent a business that probably has some value. Are there any rules of the road when it comes to getting a valuation on your business, potentially if you want to sell it or just kind of get an idea what the equity is?
Yeah, I mean, there are three ways of valuing anything, right? One is you estimate the cash flow, what that business is going to give you every year, and you present value that cash flow. Simple. That's one method. Second method is you look at similar businesses in your market and what they're selling for, and your business is likely comparable to that. That's the second method. That's the comp method, which we generally use for houses. And the third is, hey, what might it cost to build that business up from scratch? That's the third method. Generally, what's worth the most in a regular business, I'm not talking tech here, is the earnings or the recurring earnings that business gives you. And if a owner can quantify those recurring earnings, then the valuation generally is anywhere between 2 to 4x of those earnings, depending on the business, depending on the size, risk, etc.
Is there a business that might come to you and think that they're worth a ton based on that, and that you look at it anyway and think, do you ever make a judgment based on, is it just strictly based on that kind of thing for you? Or do you ever do you look at the whole business and say, yeah, okay, their book of business is pretty good, let's say. And yeah, their billings are pretty decent, but maybe there's something over here that I just don't like about this business. Or is that something you don't trouble yourself with?
Oh, no, most definitely. As an appraiser, I have to look at the 360 angle of the business. So say, for example, I am working on a law practice right now, and that law practice, they had $7 million of revenue. Last year, they did very well. But this year, they're projecting 5 million. And the reason for that is they had excess work coming in because of COVID problems. So COVID was good for them. But that extra 2 million is not recurring revenue. That's not going to come year after year. So I was explaining to the partners, look, guys, I mean, I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you all boys, got yourself a Mercedes, but it's not going to help you in your valuation, because what's important in evaluation is recurring revenue. So if that 2 million was recurring year over year, then yeah, you added value to the business. If it was just one time or ad hoc, then probably not.
Yeah, you can't just factor in your really great best year. Like, I've been in business 11 years, and I've made money most of those years, but I had a 1 year that was splendid. It was great. But what I'm hearing you say is, that's great, Alex. Congrats. I hope you bought yourself something nice, but it's not going to really help your valuation much.
I don't make the rules. That's the rule. And the rule is, look, you got to think of your business from a buyer's perspective, right? Buyer doesn't want to come in and hear that, oh, fantastic, Alex, you had a great year last year, but when you sell it to me, I'm not going to have a great year. Well, why would I pay you money for your big year and not mine big year? So, you got to put your buyer's hat on.
So when you do that, though, okay, but just the next level of that thought for me, though, is, okay, let's say you want to sell your business. Now, this I hear happens sometimes. So let me just run this by you. Do people often throw themselves in with it for a year or something? Does that help evaluation? For example, let's say I'm like an incredible CEO and you're going to buy my business. Okay, that's a fantasy, obviously, but let's pretend. And I say, look, buy my business and I will work for you for a year and make sure everything goes well. Is that something that's ever sweetened the pot, or is that a no-go, or what do you think about that?
That is almost an imperative. It doesn't sweeten the pot. I mean, they want the owner to stick around, because buying a business is very different than buying a house. Right? Buying a house is like, the house doesn't move very much. I mean, it is stationary versus, if you don't take care of a house for a month, it's not a big deal. Yeah, you might have some dust and some spiders in the house, but that can be taken care of. But try not taking care of a business for a month. See what happens. See how quickly it dilapidates. So a business is a moving target or an object. So you need the past owner, you need her expertise, you need her relationships, you need their involvement in operations, so that all that knowledge, all those relationships, all the revenue, if you will, transfers to the new buyer.
Yeah, you're not just tossing the keys to somebody, thanks for the check, it cleared, here's your keys, adios. That actually happens far less than people think, I guess.
It almost never does.
Okay, very good. Let's talk about your YouTube channel. All right, you've rolled this out. You're building up your subscribers, and these videos are such fun for me. I don't, I mean, what's a restaurant worth? What's an e-commerce business worth? What's a law firm, as you just talked about? What's a law firm worth? What's a golf course worth? Here, I'll ask the question I get asked sometimes about how I figure out who's going to be on my show or how it works. I mean, do you just kind of work from a list of stuff? Did you sit down one day with a pad and go, okay, I'm going to go through everything I've ever valued and talk about that? Or how did you come up with the ones you want to work on and describe?
It's a long-term play. So, I just work on the business that interest me and that are interesting to the audience. Or if I am valuing something currently, I'll just incorporate that into my show. Or if somebody reaches out to me and says that, hey, you got to do a show on this, I say, yeah, sure. I'll put that on the pipeline.
Yeah, well, it's good, and it's a very appealing. You've got a nice way about you, and I think that people are going to like that. And you give the information and the insights, but it's not like unapproachable. It's not where you know what I mean. You don't watch it thinking, ugh, because I think when you first introduced yourself to me and I checked it, I thought, man, I don't know if I'm gonna, this is for me. But then I'm like, hey, these are pretty cool. This is kind of fun because you don't just sit behind a desk. Right? You actually go there. There's graphics on the screen. So did you from the get-go say, I'm going to go on location for most of these?
Yeah, I'm a visual learner, and I pretty much, if I want to learn something, I just go to YouTube. So first thing I decided that, hey, if I'm going to build something, I want to create video content. And video content is the easiest way to explain a concept to people. And if you see, my videos are very simple.
Mhm.
I like to keep things simple. As Einstein said, if you cannot explain it simply enough, you don't know it well enough. So what I'm shooting for is to keep the videos informative, keep the videos entertainment, and keep them concise. I mean, I don't want to be rambling on and on and on.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's around 5 minutes or less on most of these
Mhm.
videos. You might have some go a little over, a little under,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
5 to 7
Did you hire?
minutes.
Yeah, 5 to 7. Did you hire a company or do you have some inside help or how do you do it?
I have a production team.
Great.
I have two writers. I have an editor. I have a producer. I have a director. So yeah, I have a team.
What do you think and I probably already asked you some pretty simple questions, simplistic questions, but what do you think the biggest misconception business owners have about their own business? Is there a sense that they're looking in the mirror and seeing a bodybuilder when actually they're a little bit more like a dad bod? I mean, do people or do you find that people generally have a pretty accurate understanding of what the value of their business is based on your initial conversations?
If a business owner says that their business is worth, say, I don't know, 30 donuts, I would generally say that valuation is probably anywhere between one third to half of that. So that valuation is not 30, it's probably between 10 to 15. Because most business owners, again, nobody wants to call the baby ugly, right? And nobody wants to call their own baby ugly, right?
Right.
So the way they think of valuations is, hey, my neighbor's cousin's wife sold her business for 4x. So my business is similar. So my business can definitely sell for at least 6x. That's really the back of the envelope type of calculations they're thinking of. And, sometimes the reality is parallel to it, and most times it's not.
Are you finding during the pandemic that you're being asked to give valuations on businesses you primarily did not service prior to the pandemic?
No, no. I'm doing a lot of commercial real estate type of work right now as well. The business already exists. I mean, most people are just not able to run them. Like this morning, I spoke with this lady in Houston, and she runs a Montessori school, and the enrollment has dropped to one fourth of what it was,
Wow.
and she's just getting by. And the only reason she's even getting by is because she has family members helping out with the school. So, it's hard for me to tell her that, yeah, I know your revenue was this last year or year before that, but your business is really not worth much right now. You probably are not going to get much for it, if anything.
Oh, that's a hard thing to have to tell somebody. But well, I've always said this myself. I didn't make it up. But the harder the truth, the truer the friend that tells it. And you're being hired to be their friend and say, look, your baby's ugly, or your baby needs to grow up a little bit before you can sell it. I guess I could infer that if you can hold on right now, if you know what I mean, unless you just absolutely have to sell, I would imagine, depending on the business, but I imagine you would want to hold on as long as possible until we get past the pandemic lockdown stage.
And I think everybody was doing that. Everybody was holding on, but now everybody is at the end of their rope. It's been almost a
Yeah,
year. So I'm
yeah,
starting to see and hear some fatigue from people. They're like, all right, what's going to happen now? I mean, schools are still closed, restaurants are still suffering. So people have been just sort of, passing the buck to the next month and the next month and the next month and the next month. But they're like, Jesus, I mean, it's been 12 months already. What's going to happen?
right. Yeah, there's only so you can kick the can down the road, then you run out of road
Yeah.
eventually. Yeah,
So yeah,
which is it. Well,
most business owners are at the end of their rope. I mean, yeah, some business owners have done fabulously well. I mean, good for them, and I talk to business owners many times, and one of my clients who was in cannabis, I spoke to him, and he's like, I feel bad saying this, but my revenue has doubled. I'm like, Tom, why are you apologizing for it? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
there've been days, there've been months you've taken it on the chin. So, don't feel bad. I mean, that's the way it is. Enjoy it.
Yeah, we had a guest actually who is an accountant in the cannabis industry, and we had him on right before all this happened. But I keep in touch with him, and I asked him that question: how's business? Is it growing? He groaned, and then he said, "Yes, it's growing." But actually, he said the same thing. He says, "No, it's actually doing really well." He said, their big concerns are just around, being able to get staff to scale up, and because it's tougher. But anyway, that's a good point. Well, so is there anything you don't value? Is you know what I mean? Is it any kind of business? I've got to ask. Come on, just tell me. Has anybody called you up with something totally bizarre and you said, "Oh my God, I can't do that"?
So I'm one of the few appraisers in the country who can value tangible assets, intangible assets, and businesses. Um, there are a few assets I do not value, which is like art or collectibles or gems and jewelry. Today, somebody pinged me for bonsai tree collection. I
Huh.
don't do those, but for those kinds of assets which have like an art component to it, I'm not the best guy for it. For those kinds of assets, I'm also on the board of American Society of Appraisers. So I refer them to some of the best appraisers in the country. So if somebody comes to me and I cannot value it and I
Mhm.
cannot refer them to somebody, they're probably shit out of luck.
I love it. Your channel's called "What's It Worth," and that's where we want to send everybody if they want more. Right? They've got to go see these
Yes.
videos. Is that where you want them to go right now?
Yes, just Google or go to YouTube and put "What's It Worth Bharat," and my channel will pop up.
And we're going to have a link in the show notes all about this. Brought anything I forgot to ask you about that I just need to before we say adios?
No, that's good. It's good to be here, Alex. You're a fantastic host. Thank you for having me.
It's Bharat Kanodia. Thank you so much. What's It Worth with Bharat? You've got to check this out. Guys, even if you're not trying to sell anything or have anything valued, it's an education just looking at the videos. I highly recommend you do that. Again, be sure to visit prafterhours.com and the show notes. And it'll also be in the show notes, probably wherever you're getting this in your pod feed. Just scroll down, because you're going to value it. Scroll down and click the link. Bharat Kanodia, thanks again for appearing here in the virtual lounge.
Thanks, Alex.
Oh, you know what that means? Looks like it's last call here at your virtual lounge for PR news, views, and interviews. Don't forget, you can ask me a question anytime. You can do it through our Twitter account, which is @HoursPR, or Even better, you can send me a message vocally. I would love to hear your voice, and I'll answer it on the show. There's a link in the show notes. All you have to do is sign up through Anchor FM. It's free, doesn't take long, and you record your message. I get the message. I will play your audio. Just give me your first name and the city you live in, and then I will answer the question to the best of my ability right here on the show. Don't forget to, if you're enjoying this podcast, you can support it and help increase the frequency and value of the show. Just consider being a sponsor for your brand or your agency or just yourself because you're like, I like this show. Or just drop a few coins in the virtual tip jar. Either way, there's links in the show notes. Please check that out. All of that, of course, being in the show notes where you're listening right now or at prafterhours.com. I see that they're turning up the lights. Last call is over, and I've got to clean up this virtual lounge. And until next time, I'm Alex Greenwood, and you've been listening to PR After Hours on Anchor FM. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But have you been there, done that, and got the t-shirt? Now's your chance. If you are a big fan of the virtual lounge right here at PR After Hours, why don't you tell the world and take our spiffy logo and plaster it across your chest for the whole world to see? Well, for the whole world to see on Zoom or whenever you do finally get out of your house. The PR After Hours tee shows that you're an exclusive member of the virtual lounge. It's a cool, comfortable, ring-spun, soft cotton tee. We look for the best possible options we could go for in these t-shirts, and it's in a variety of colors. You can get them in dark heather gray, royal blue, storm, maroon, or good old-fashioned white. These are really comfortable shirts. We offer a premium unisex tee from extra small all the way to 4XL, and a women's slim fit tee, which goes from small to 2XL. They are a hoot, they look cool, and besides, they'll do what we love to do most here at PR After Hours, start a conversation. The PR After Hours t-shirt is available now on Bonfire. The link is in the show notes, and I hope you'll look into getting one. I not only think they look cool and be great conversation starters, but they'll help us keep the virtual lounge doors open. Thanks so much.